Okay, we will move for the next topic, right? Introduction to business intelligence, right? So, so actually your subject is data analytics and business intelligence, right? So what do you mean by business intelligence? Tell me, what do you mean by business intelligence? What do you mean by business intelligence? So already you get some idea, right? So we need to analyze the data, whatever the problem domain, we need to analyze the data based on the analysis. So based on the knowledge, we need to take some important aspects, right? So what do you mean by, okay, now tell me what is intelligence? Okay, just forget about business intelligence. Just tell me intelligence. What do you mean by the term intelligence? Tell me, what do you mean by intelligence? Anyone, any volunteer to answer my question? What do you mean by intelligence? What do you think about the human being? They are intelligent or not? What do you mean by intelligence? Tell me. Tell me some example features or behaviors uh, that that guarantee you are an intelligent guy. Yeah, good, right? Yeah, 043. Your answer is correct, right? Just yeah, yeah. We need to apply the knowledge, right? So yeah, what do you mean by intelligence? What about others? Tell me. What do you mean by intelligence? Tell me some behaviors. You can tell some behaviors in you. It reflect you are an intelligent guy. Tell me how we can reflect as an intelligent guy. Tell me some behaviors you have. Yeah, your IQ power says intelligence, right? Yeah. Don't think not only the IQ, right? If you have a highest IQ level, then only you are intelligent guy, right? Each and every human being they have intelligence, right? Except that uh, mental disorder people, right? That mentally disabled people, except those people, all other human beings they have intelligence, right? So don't think if someone have a highest level of IQ, then only we can say intelligent, right? So each and every human being, except that mentally disabled people, all others are intelligence, right? Maybe the child from 4 to 5 years, not only four, maybe 3 years onwards, right? All the babies they have some intelligence, right? So how we can say? Tell me the behaviors that reflect you are an intelligent guy. So intelligence in the sense you need to take the correct decisions, right? Based on the knowledge what you have, you can take the correct intelligence, right? Correct decisions at correct time, right? So that is the important thing. If you have intelligence behavior, right, by applying your intelligence, intelligence, your knowledge, you can take the correct decisions, right? So the correct decision in the sense, like let's say, if you think about the babies, they are learning from the environment, right? So they are learning from their parents, their surrounding. Based on their learning, based on their learning in the sense, based on the knowledge, they will take the correct decisions, right? Let's say if any obstacle coming close to you, just you can move away, right? So how, let's say while we are driving a vehicle, right? So we can look at that opposite vehicle. So based on their behavior we will take the correct decisions, whether we need to reduce the speed or we need to give side for the vehicle, right? So that is we can say intelligence, right? If you think human as an intelligent, right, the intelligent behavior means right? You have a knowledge. Based on the knowledge, you are taking the correct decisions, right? So if you have some certain knowledge, we are acquire the knowledge from the environment, from the surrounding people, or we acquire the knowledge from the skills what we are learning, right? So different factors, it gives the knowledge for us, right? So based on the knowledge, we need to take the correct decisions, right? If you are taking a correct decision, you have a intelligence behavior. So, so the intelligence means we are taking the correct decisions based on the knowledge, right? So as a human being, we are taking so many things, right? In the real world, right? Not only even if you are an undergraduate or graduate, they don't have only they don't have intelligence, right? Even uneducated people, they have some intelligence behavior, right? Even they are go for the they are not go for the universities, they just go for the schools, the primary education. Even they have some intelligence, right? From the surrounding, from the environment, they are learned. They observe something based on the observation. They have some knowledge. Based on the knowledge, they will take the correct decision, right? So if you are taking the correct decision at correct time, you have intelligence behavior, right? So intelligent, you are taking the correct decision, right? So day to day, we are facing so many things, right? So many events occurred, so many tasks we are doing. So each and everywhere we can apply the intelligence behavior to take the correct decisions, right? So if you are taking the decision, correct decisions, day-to-day tasks or day-to-day activities, you have intelligence, right? So if you think about the business intelligence, if you are running a business, right, you are taking the correct decisions based on the business behavior, right? So you are running a business last 3 years, right? Or maybe you are running a shop last 2 or 3 years. So based on the last 3 years, you have some knowledge about the business, right? So based on the knowledge you are based on the knowledge you are finding. Uh, about the business, if you are taking the correct decisions, that is we can call business intelligence, right? So how we are getting the knowledge, for that knowledge we need to analyze the data, right? So normally in the business perspective, maybe we can observe the customer behaviors. That is one way we can take the decision, right? So better way, we can analyze the data, the business data. Last 3 years we are running the business, right? So we have day-to-day transaction and day-to-day business activities, right? If you have that data, by analyzing the data, we can take the correct decisions in business. That is we can call business intelligence, right? Do you have any questions? Okay, now we will look at some basics of business intelligence, right? Okay, end of the session you can learn, right? You can define what is business intelligence system, right? What do you mean by system? What do you mean by system? Tell me that definition of a system. Or what do you mean by a system? Tell me. So here I am telling, define business intelligence system, right? End of the session, you can define this is business intelligence system. Also, you can understand the development phases of a business intelligence system, right? You can explain some critical successful factors of a business intelligence system, the KPI, key performance indicators, right? The successful critical success factors of a business intelligence system. Also, you can get the knowledge about the ethics, legal aspects related to the business intelligence system. These are the content we are covering throughout the session. Okay, now tell me, what do you mean by a system? Already know what
It's a
is the definition?
combination of components that works together to fulfill a task, right?
Yeah. So maybe in our body we have different systems, right? Our body is made of different systems, right? Blood circulation systems, right? The nervous systems. So each system, they are functioning for a specific task, right? Similarly, if it is a system in the sense, they have different components, right? They are interrelated components. They are work together. All the components are work together to achieve a specific goal, right? They have a certain goal. That is the objective. So all the interrelated components are working for a specific purposes, right? Similarly, if you think about business intelligence systems, right? So, business intelligence means we are taking the correct decision, right? So, based on the business data, we need to take the correct decisions. For that decision making process, we are developing one system, right? So, that system, it means that maybe the software system, that the ultimate goal of this system is to take the correct decisions, right, for your business. So that is we can call business intelligence system, right? So separately you can find out what is intelligence, what is business, what is system. So if you merge these three aspects, you can easily define the definition, right? So now we will move for what is business intelligence, right? So if you think about business intelligence, right? So this is one type of definition, right? It defined as a set of mathematical models and analytical methodology that use the available data to generate information and knowledge useful for complex decision making process, right? So business intelligence in the sense you need to take the complex decision making process, right? So the complex decision making process in the sense it's very difficult to take the correct decision. So for that complex decision making process, we need the enough knowledge, right? That enough information and knowledge. For those information and knowledge, we are using the existing data and we can analyze the data by using mathematical models, or we analyze the data by using different analytical tasks. We can extract some knowledge. Based on the knowledge, we are taking the complex decision making process. That is we can call business intelligence, right? The important thing here, if you are taking a decisions, right, there are two aspects you need to think about, right? The first aspect, the effectiveness of your decisions, the timely decisions, right? So maybe you can take the decisions later also, right? Let's say you have a you are in a critical stage now, right? You are planning to do your research, right? Just think about, you need to take a decision which domain I need to conduct my research, right? This is one of the critical decision making you are doing, right? So now that the decision you are taking is always effective. Effective in the sense, let's say you are planning to your career. Yeah, you have a career goal to become a data scientist, right? Or maybe you are planning to define your career as a network engineer, right? So your effective decision in the sense, maybe that the research topic you are finding that gives or that gives benefits for your career goal, right? Let's say you are a network engineer or cyber security specialist. Maybe while you are selecting a research topic, you are find out related to that domain, right? So that is we are still as effective decisions, right? Let's say you are planning to define your career as a cyber security engineer, but you are doing some research related to software or something. That is waste, right? That is not an effective decision, right? So effective decision in the sense the decision you have made, it gives benefit for your career or benefit for your future, right? Sometimes the second aspect is timely decisions, right? Let's say now you need to take the decision, right? You are waiting, maybe you are waiting or you are thinking about next 3 months, or maybe after your proposal defense, you are taking the decision, it is waste, right? So if you are do a decision, you need to take the decision in the correct time, right? So whatever the decision we are make in the business, we need to think these through two aspects, right? Effectiveness as well as timely decision, right? So let's say we have a capital amount to invest in our business, right? We have provide three different services, right? So at that time, we need to invest that capital amount based on the requirements, right? The customer demand, we need to invest the money, right? So without taking the correct decisions at the correct time, if I invest the money, sometimes you lose the capital income also. That's a normal thing. The business losses happen because of this type of ineffective or untimely decisions we are made, right? Sorry. So complex decision making examples in the sense retention in the mobile phone industry, right? The customer churn behavior we can analyze and we can retain, keep the customers for a particular mobile phone industry. Logistic planning, right? Let's say you are running a e-commerce business sites, and we need to effectively plan your logistic, the transportation, supply chain, everything you need to plan in a effective way. Then only we can serve the money. We can get more benefit, profit also. Like otherwise, without proper planning and proper decision making, sometimes we lose the business, right? We are not get profit, that income throughout the businesses, right? So now business intelligence system, right? So the system based on the system definition, they are giving business intelligence system, right? Combine data gathering, data storage, knowledge management with data analysis to evaluate and transform complex data into meaningful, actionable information, which can be support more effective decision making, right? So here, business intelligence system means we are developing one system. They have different components. All the components are a specific goal, right? They are working for achieve a specific goal. The goal is they need to provide the decision making process effectively, right? So that is the ultimate goal, right? For whatever the business where we are develop a business intelligence system, the perspective of the business intelligence system, they need to take the correct decision, right? For taking the correct decision, they need some knowledge, they need some analytical task. For that purposes, they are working. Each component in the business intelligence system, they are working, right? They have some data storage systems, right? They have some platform to gather the data, the customer feedback, right? If you think about that, whatever the telecommunication service provider, now they are maintaining some systems, right? So once you communicate with that customer care, right, they have provide some feedbacks, right? After the call or after the chatting with that customer service provider, they will ask some questions, right? So based on the answers you are providing, right? So what will happen? Now they are gathering your data, right? That system gather the data, the feedback form in the sense they are gather the data, they will store the data in their uh, systems, right? So they gather the data throughout these forms. After they gather the data, right, they can store the data, right? Also, after they are storing the data, they have some certain models. Based on the model, they will analyze the data, right? So based on the model, they can analyze the data. Based on the analysis, they will take the customer behavior, right? Whether throughout the customer service provider we are providing, customers are satisfied or dissatisfied. So they are taking the correct decision, right? So sometimes maybe last 2 months, right, they notice the customer satisfaction levels are below 5 out of 10. Most of the customer satisfaction, the customer feedback grade less than 5, right? Less than 5 in the sense the customers are not satisfied with the service provided last 2 months, right? So just think about the one of the internet service provider that continuously take the feedback from the customers. Then they have some certain data analytical models. Based on the model, they will analyze. Based on the analysis, they are taking a knowledge, right? Last 2 months, the customers are not satisfied with the customer services provided throughout the customer care, right? So now this is one of the knowledge they are taking, right? So as a top level managers, you need to react for these findings, right? So as a business intelligence system, they give some topics, right? So based on these, you need to react as a manager, top level manager in the organization. You need to, based on the findings, you need to react, right? What is the problem with the customer services? Who are the people interact with these customer service calls, right? So now we need to provide some training session for that customer care representatives, or we need to evaluate their ranks and everything, right? Whether what is their experience in the customer service. Likewise, you need to do something that is we can call reactions, right? So that is your decision making, right? So if you are facing something last 2 months, based on the findings, you can react, right? So based on the reaction means you are taking the correct decisions. Maybe you can provide some technical session how we can deal with the customers, or maybe you can arrange some workshops, or you need to uh, hire some experienced representatives. Likewise, you are taking complex decisions, right? If you are taking this decision in the correct time, then only you can survive. You can keep your customers, the customers continuously uh, take services from your business. Otherwise, what will happen? If the customers are not satisfied with the services you are providing, sometimes they will leave from your services. They will find someone or some service, similar service provider. They are giving more beneficial for those customers, right? So that's the thing we can say, right? If it's a system in the sense, right, we are developing a software system. It's a business intelligence system means that is one of the systems, right? The software system, they have different functionalities, right? They have some feedback gathering forms. They have feedback gathering systems. They can store the data. They have analyzing the data. Based on the analysis, they have a dashboard, right? They have some Power BI or some other tools, right? Just search something called Microsoft Fiber, right? Nowadays, something called Microsoft Fiber platform. They are giving these type of business intelligence systems, right? They have different functionalities. Ultimately, the final goal, they can disclose the knowledge they are extracting, right? So they have some dashboards, or they have some analytical tools. They tools disclose the findings of the decision, the knowledge they are extracted, right? So the purpose of business intelligence system, the people who are dealing with the business intelligence systems are knowledge workers, right? So who are the knowledge workers of an organization? We can categorize the employees or the individual or stakeholders of an organization into different, right? So the knowledge workers are, in the sense, they are the people top level managers, right? If you think about these the pyramid, right, the knowledge workers are this the top level people, right? These people we can say the knowledge workers, right? So these certain very small number of people, they are the we can call as a knowledge workers, right? They are taking the decision based on the finding or based on the knowledge we are extracting throughout these business intelligence systems, right? Okay, now we will look at what are the architecture of business intelligence system. Let's say business intelligence system in the sense that is a software system, right? We are developing one system. The ultimate goal of the system, it's helpful to take the correct decision in the correct time by integrating different components related to the business activities, right? So if you think about the architecture of a business intelligence system, it contains three major components, right? They have different components. We can categorize all these components into three major components, right? The first component, data sources, right? So if you are planning to develop a business intelligence system, first thing the data source, right? For that data analytical task or the decision making process, we need to think about which are the data sources we are extract the data, right? Together or to integrate the data, we need to find out what are the different sources, whether it's a primary source or the secondary source. What do you mean by primary and secondary sources? Tell me, what is the difference between primary sources and secondary sources in data? So the primary source in the sense, right? We have a specific domain, specific data analytical task. For that task, we are purposefully collecting the data. We have one business problem, business issue. We need to provide a solution, right? For that solution, we are finding the data, right? That's the primary sources. Secondary sources in the sense that data is not collected for a specific purpose, right? So we already collected some certain source of data for some other purposes, but now we have a problem. For that problem domain, to sort out the problem, we uses the existing data. That data is collected for different purposes, not exactly we are collecting for this research problem. We already collected that data for some other research and development area, then we are using that type of source we can call secondary sources, right? The next one, data warehouse and data mart, right? Maybe the next week we will look at what is data warehouse, right? So that small portion of that data warehouse is made of data marts, right? So just think these two aspects, right? So maybe we can look at more detail about data warehouse in next week, right? So the data warehouse in the sense, right? It is totally different from the relational databases, right? So the purpose of data warehouse, online analytical process, right? If you are developing a data warehouse, the goal of this data warehouse taking the correct decisions, right? Analyze the data analytical task, right? But if you think about the relational databases, we are just or store the day-to-day transaction, right? That is we can call transactional process. If you are dealing with relational databases or MySQL, MS SQL, we are using those things for data uh, to transactional process, right? We can store the data, we can retrieve the data, right? We can update the data. That is the only goal of relational databases. If you think about data warehouse, they are analytical process. We are developing data warehouse to take the correct decision. We can analyze the data and take the correct decision, right? So the second major component to develop business intelligence system, data warehouse, right? So the third thing is the methodology we are using to develop the business intelligence systems, right? So for the business intelligence, what are the different methodologies we are using, right? For the correct decision making process, right? These are the three major components, right? So we need to think about while we are developing the business intelligence systems, right? Do you have any questions? Any questions? Any questions? So these are the major phases of business intelligence systems, right? Any questions? Any questions? Okay, this is a diagram, right? So we have different data sources, right? So based on the different data sources, we are creating the data warehouse. From the data warehouse, we are apply different methodologies, right? So we apply different uh, business intelligence methodology, maybe time series analysis or data mining or maybe multidisciplinary data cubes. That is we can call data warehouse cubes, data cubes or exploratory data analysis, right? So whatever the different data business intelligence techniques we are using to take the decision making process, right? So based on these business intelligence methodology, we can find out the uh, correct knowledge or decisions, right? So these are the blueprint architecture of the business intelligence system, right? So if you think about the business intelligence system components, right? So this is the bottom element is data sources, right? So we are using different data sources to extract the data. By using the different data sources, we are generating the data warehouse or data mart, right? The next level is data exploration, right? We can do the statistical analysis and we can visualize the data, right? Then after we explore the statistical analysis with the data, when we can apply the data mining, right? Data analytical, data mining things, right? We can mine the hidden pattern from the data. Then we can optimization, right? We can enhance, right? We can fine tune the data analytical tasks, right? Based after we do the fine tuning optimization, we can take the decisions, right? So this is the pyramid diagram of the components we are interacting the business intelligence system, right? So this is the top level we are taking the correct decisions, right? If you think about the critical success factors of business intelligence system, there are three aspects, right? Three factors influence the business intelligence system become a successful, right? The technological aspect, hardware and software we are using, right? So if you are using the outdated technology, you cannot survive in the business intelligence, right? So if you are running a business day by day, you need to enhance the skills and knowledge or whatever the technology you are using, right? Also the analytical tools, right? The mathematical model or analytical methodology we are using, we need to upgrade, right? So we cannot stay the same way how we are analyzed last 20 years back, right? Maybe in the early decades we are only using the analytical tool for decision making. Now what will happen after the integration of artificial intelligence? Now there are more advanced analytical tools are there, right? So you need to integrate those tools for your day-to-day business activities, right? The third critical successful factor is a human resources, right? So the third component is a human resources, right? So to manage all the technical aspects and that mathematical models or whatever the analytical tools, we need a human resource, right? So we need to hire highly skilled human resources for the organization or for the business. We need to research and development team, right? So for those research and development team, they are continuously analyze the data and they will extract the patterns, right? They extract some hidden knowledge from the day-to-day business activities, right? So these are the three critical successful factors of a business intelligence system. First thing, the technology and we are using for the businesses, right? The second one, analytical tools and methodologies we are using. Third one, the human resources, right? So these are the key aspects of business intelligence system, right? So now if you are planning to develop a business intelligence system, you need to the same way how we are developing a software system, you can follow the same phases, right? We first of all, if you are planning to develop a business intelligence system, right? Maybe you are planning to develop an ERP system or you are planning to develop some business intelligence systems, right? You need to planning phase, right? The same how we are develop a software, we can use the same phases, right? We can analyze. Analyzing means we can domain knowledge. We are getting the domain knowledge. After that, we need to design the things. Based on the design, we need to plan the factors. Finally, we can implement and control. Right? So these are the phases of software. The same phases we are using for developing a software. We are using here the same phases for business intelligence systems, right? So they will explain what is the thing we need to do in the analysis phase. In the analysis phase, you need to identify the business requirements, right? So if you are planning to develop a business intelligence system, first thing we need to analyze the business requirements. What are the needs of the businesses, right? In the designing phase, you need to identify the infrastructures. What are the structures we need? What are the resources we need, right? Then we need to define the project planning, right? So how long it will take to implement this business intelligence system, we need to plan, right? Sorry. The next phase, the planning phase, right? The project detailed requirements, right? That you need to define what are the methodologies or models we are using to develop these business intelligence system, right? You need to, after you are decide that methodology, mathematical models, then we need to develop the prototype, right? That a blueprint of the things. Then finally we can uh, implement, right? The implementation phase, it will develop the business intelligence system, right? The same way how we are develop a software, we are maintaining for develop the business intelligence systems, right? Okay, the last topic, what are the ethics in business intelligence system? Tell me. So yeah, tell me some ethics you need to follow while you are developing the business intelligence systems. Tell me. What are the legal aspects of business intelligence systems? What are the legal aspects? Ethics in the sense, let's say, if you are developing a research, right, you need to follow some ethics, right? So if you are involved with human resources or if you are involved with animals or something, there are some certain ethics, right? You follow, right? So if you maintain those ethics, you don't need to face any legal issues in the later part, right? Similarly, if you are developing any business intelligence system, what type of ethics you need to follow? Tell me some example ethics. Sorry, this is the last topic. Tell me, what are the ethics you need to follow while you are developing a business intelligence systems? Tell me. Just open your mouth. What are the ethics? Let's say you are developing a business intelligence system, right? For take the business decision, you are developing a system, right? For maybe you are running a restaurant, you are running a food city or something. For that food city, you need to develop a business intelligence system. The purpose of that system is take the corrective decision based on the data analysis by integrating different data sources. They will extract the data from different sources. Then they will develop some models. Based on the models, it will do some efficient knowledge about the day-to-day transaction. Based on that, we are taking the decision, right? While we are developing this type of business intelligence system, what type of ethics you need to follow? Tell me. What are the ethics you need to follow? Tell me some basic ethics. Yeah, we need to protect the data, right? So we cannot disclose the finding to the society or to the world. We cannot disclose the findings, right? Also, the privacy of that customer data, right? So we are, if you are running a telecommunication service provider, we have all the data about the customers, right? How often they are using internet, what are the different perspective they are using our telecommunication service provider. So those things we are using for analytical purpose to improve the business, but we cannot disclose those findings. We always maintain the privacy of the customers, right? We cannot share the private information of the customers with someone, right? So that is a key thing, right? Sometimes different countries, they have different laws, right? Legal aspects related to the customer data. Sometimes they have different laws for uh, data protection laws, right? So you need to maintain those laws, right? So likewise, as a homework, just find out some ethics related to business intelligence, right? I mean, I didn't give the answers for this question. Maybe sometime you have one question in your final exam paper, right? If some questions this way without answers, just keep in mind sometimes that is in the exam papers, right? So as a homework, just find out what are the ethics in business intelligence system, right? Ethics means the legal aspects, right? If you are developing a business intelligence system software, what are the things, what are the legal aspects, ethical things you need to maintain, right? Let's say sometime you are collecting a data to implement a business intelligence system, right? So while you are data gathering, you need to aware, right? So this is the purpose, right? So maybe while you are gathering the data throughout the questionnaire, you need to mention this data is used for some research and development purposes, right? So without aware the audience, we cannot collect the data for any business intelligence system development purposes, right? So likewise, there are different aspects, ethical aspects you need to think while we are developing the business intelligence system, right? So as a homework, try to find out at least 5 to 10 ethical aspects related to business intelligence systems, right? Any questions? So that's all about that introduction about business